in a time where I didn't feel like I belonged, then randomly I turn on the radio and there's just full Indian songs being used, tablas, mridangams, flutes, violins, everything that I had toured with as a classical dancer was now like on the radio. And there was no way that people could tell me that they weren't ready to hear me or that I wasn't welcome when they're literally using the songs. And actually, I think it was during that time that I understood that we kind of have always been rapping. Like in Indian culture, we do these jatis and these tals. So it's like, dalang gutaka dekutaka tadingina tom da kita jem. So I was like, Dalang gutaka dekutaka tadingina tom Raja Kumari daughter of the king. How long you think that you could keep up with my tempo? Dance to the rhythm, dance in the Himalaya.
When a man is assertive, he's a boss. He bossed up. I am assertive. I'm a bitch.
They say they want me, they've been looking for her. I'm the battery, man, I'm keeping the charge. I run deep, like I'm one of them boys, running them boys.
Hi, I'm Raja Kumari.
Head bitch in charge, HBIC.
I feel like I had a very unique kind of ability to imbibe music from all over the world. My parents really listened to classical Indian music. So like they didn't have like the Beatles or different records from the 70s, 80s to play for me. So I didn't really work with that same kind of, musical foundation that a lot of my contemporaries work with. I was listening to Carnatic classical music, Bala Murali Krishna, A.R. Rahman, Telugu music, I think up until like the 4th or 5th grade. And whatever English music I would get, it would be from pop culture. So like I would get it from MTV, I would get it from like the radio. So there was this influence of like, obviously pop culture. So NSYNC, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, those are the types of music I listened to at 13, 14. But surprisingly, I would say out of the Indian music, my older brother gave me the Fugees album when I was in the 5th grade. And that album, the score, is probably the most important album ever to me. And I think I've listened to it throughout my life at different eras, and it's meant different things. Like in the beginning when I was so young, I had no idea what most of the words meant. Like I remember looking up in a dictionary, like, and defecating on your microphone and being like, why does Lauryn Hill want to like go to the bathroom on a microphone? Because I didn't understand hip hop. So it was like I learned the words, I learned the language, the vibe, everything from Praz, Wyclef, and Lauryn. And I feel like that was an important album. And then, because of MTV, I was able to listen to Nas. I remember listening to one mic in my room and writing all the lyrics out. Because there was this real disconnect with me understanding a lot of things, because it wasn't like my parents were there to give me those cultural insights. It was really what I could deduce from my friends and family, and we didn't, whatever I could get like from pop culture. But I think that fusion of having that really traditional classical music, centered around my classical dance. So I would tour with like a classical orchestra. There would be a mridangam, a violin, a flute, a natwangam. There would be all these very traditional classical instruments that I would learn and understand the sound of so much that they would definitely play a role in my music later. Learning classical music for dance first meant that my first relationship was through rhythm. So it wasn't like I even knew I could hold a note or what was going on. I was just listening to the sonics and the rhythms of everything. And I think through learning Indian classical dance and music, and then the early 2000 Timbaland kind of movement, hearing Indian classical music in that was really the genesis of me, wanting to become a musician and use hip hop as the vehicle for my expression. There was really not much that I could see myself in, growing up in America, early 90s. And between, seeing Lauryn be this like powerful woman that was poetic and, was able to just hold her own amongst men and just have this kind of power and dominance, and, just seeing all the pop culture things and loving my culture and not wanting to let it go, there was this desire to create something that allowed all the parts of it to be there. I think the early 2000s with Timbaland was such an important time in my life to recognizing that there was a potential for me to be an artist, or that there was a space for me. Because as a child, when I'm growing up and I'm telling people, oh, I'm from India, they'll say what tribe, and they had no concept. I'd be like, no, we're who Columbus was looking for. Like, that wasn't enough to like reference the culture. But, you know, in a time where I didn't feel like I belonged, then randomly I turn on the radio and there's just full Indian songs being used, tablas, mridangams, flutes, violins, everything that I had toured with as a classical dancer was now like on the radio. And there was no way that people could tell me that they weren't ready to hear me or that I wasn't welcome when they're literally using the songs. So I think that was the first like sign that hip hop would be the right way to express myself, that it'd be the right vehicle, that they would be welcoming to me, and that the music would, you know, connect. And actually, I think it was during that time that I understood that we kind of have always been rapping. Like in Indian culture, we do these jatis and these tals. So it's like, dalang gutaka de kutaka tadingina tom da kita taka jem. So I was like, Dalang gutaka de kutaka tadingina tom Raja Kumari, daughter of the king. How long you think that you could keep up with my tempo? Dance to the rhythm, dance in the Himalaya. I ain't hearing what they say. I'm like, wait, we've been doing this. There's a tonality to my voice that makes it like a drum, because that's what we use our voice like. Now, how do I take that and use English? Because I think in English, I'm born in America, no matter how much I want to be like India or make things in Hindi or Telugu or whatever, you know, people are speaking there. I wasn't Indian enough to do that. And obviously what I wanted to do for America it wasn't, you know, American enough. So I thought in hip hop somewhere, there was this like, you know, this sign that I could belong.
Top down in Dubai, about to set it off. Got the whole gang going ra-ta-ta.
It was a very methodical approach to learn songwriting. I actually started with like learn from the greats. So I was like, take apart one song, and I would try to write one song a week. And I had got a laptop computer, an Apple computer. I got GarageBand, which had an internal mic. I didn't even have a real mic. And I would, in the beginning, I used to try to make my own beats, but then I realized that I would get like frustrated because it wasn't like as good as it could be. So then I would start downloading, you know, instrumentals of famous songs and being like, well, I need to learn to write on a hit instrumental. So I think the process was just continually, you know, taking apart the math of it, understanding the symmetry, and trying to pay attention to the patterns so I could learn them. And I think I got a lot of experience in the beginning just, you know, working with people who were already songwriters. Like when I wanted to enter the scene, I didn't have any connections, but I had friends that were musicians. So I would just tag along to their sessions and add a few things. And I had my little party trick, my little thal thing. So that's how I would get involved. But from songwriting to like, you know, being an artist, it was just figuring out that there were so many things that nobody was willing to do, and they just kept leaving as a sample. Like they wanted it on the record, but they couldn't do it. And that in there was my sound, you know, in that place that was specifically for me. So all of those sessions, everything really taught me, you know, the difference between what's for others and what's for myself. But I feel like I've focused more on being an artist in the last 10 years, but I see how important the songwriting was to even set me up for the artistry. And also now how important the songwriting is to come back to. Because you spend so long creating this character. Like Raja Kumari is a character for me. You know, it is me, but it's a character. It's a personification, and it's an exaltation of like my greatest attributes and the strongest attributes of show, you know, a South Indian woman, you know, going against the odds, riding a chariot of fire, you know, whatever. I made her, you know, to defend me. Raja Kumari is such a established character that when I sit down to write for myself, there's so many voices in my head that are like, oh, is this good enough? Or like, is this something you should say? Or you said something like this before, or like, people want to hear this from you. That was something that would come up a lot when I write for myself. And when you write for others, I feel like it's fun. Like you come in the room, and sometimes like with Gwen or with people that like were really impactful, Gwen Stefani, like when I worked on her album, it was like, wow, she has something she really needs to say to the world, and like I'm a piece of that puzzle, and I'm there to help bring that energy out of her. And if we can both agree that the lyric resonates with both of us, then we have a better chance of it resonating with the whole world. So collaboration and co-writing has been like the juice. Like, it's been like the fuel to my fire, because anytime that I'm not sure what's going on in the world or whatever, I've never relied on like my ego to get me there. And I also feel like I'm a songwriter. I asked other artists to trust me. So when it comes time to make my music, I want the best songwriters in the world to help me figure out the ideas like I did for others. So there's definitely a difference. I think that it's less pressure when you write for others.
Line them up, stack them up, watch them fall domino. Eyes on the bag, watch where the money go. Himalayan high on the California coast. Sand in my toes, doing the most.
You do all these things. You're constantly doing things outside of the thing you're called to do. And I think this morning or any moment, I just was like, I'm so grateful to be able to start again. I'm so grateful to have a job to make music. I'm so grateful that, 10 years in, people still want to hear what I have to say, that I have the opportunity to evolve and to, reinvent myself. But definitely, it's constant. A couple weeks ago, I got an American Music Award with Arcane Season 2, which is something that I just did the song and never knew what would come from it, Or, when I first started my songwriting career, my parents wanted me to quit, but then I got a Grammy nomination with Iggy Azalea, and I told them I couldn't turn around now, Or when John Legend came to India and they chose me to write the song with him, and I got to show him around India and perform with him and stand on that stage and look at an EGOT and think this EGOT is looking me eye to eye. So who am I to not believe in myself? So God keeps telling me. And, or the moments when my whole tour got canceled and I wondered if I should keep doing music or if I should just take a break and start writing children's music and, do something else and, whatever it is. But then, God calls you back. And I constantly have these moments. I'm constantly plugged in, because I think my greater purpose is I've always wanted to help the West understand the East, through understanding myself also in that process. And I just felt like if people, I believe in my culture has many times over the series, the history of this world, whether it's India's been important this entire time, whether it's fashion, bandana, like tartan fabrics, like everything, the textiles, everything has come from us, the spices, all this stuff. So it's like there being an Indian Renaissance again is just another one of them, But this time it's on our terms. It's our stories being told by ourselves. And I just want to be a big part of that. I want to make sure that there's room for someone to be like authentically in themselves and not just a version of what people need to see. Like, I don't want to just skim on the top of it and just do the chai, like curry sauce, mango thing, which is, my first project was called Curry Sauce. So I'm not talking shit. I'm saying that's what I was. I just want to be a part of that. And I want to make sure that I can have nuanced, commentary on that and be someone that can, stand in their own way in that.
I'm tired of taking it slow. They're faking the love, faking the funk. What you thinking?